Have you ever worked for an organization that, if it's not entirely lacking a sense of direction, at least didn't seem like it knew where it was going? You're not alone. Companies often have so many goals that they might as well have none at all. And sometimes workers are getting caught up in the middle, in between, trying to go in so many directions that they often feel directionless. Stay with us, as today we talked about measuring what matters.
Welcome to your podcast, Online Marketing with Juan Llerena. To succeed in any entrepreneurial project, you need to get prepared and you must learn to learn, unlearn and relearn. In this podcast, we'll help you in 3 ways. First, giving you an opportunity to join a community of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs just like you, to support you and learn from each other. Second, by bringing you for free tools, tips and tricks to help you advance your projects faster and to teach you how to let the world know about your products and services. Third, by providing you with inspiration, motivation, and ideas to continue your entrepreneurial journey. We cover subjects of marketing, sales, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Join our tribe of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs and take charge of your destiny. What are we waiting for? Let's get started.
Welcome, entrepreneurs at heart. Welcome once again to this, our 5th podcast episode of our season 3. Today we are continuing with our book overview and with my own spin, and we are talking about Measuring What Matters. Measuring What Matters is a book written by John Doerr, and this book is from 2018. Okay, so basically John takes us in a lifelong journey where he learns and he explains how organizations can benefit from implementing objectives and key results. Otherwise they're called here as OKRs. Okay, and basically what John is telling us is that with the help of these OKRs, and one more time, OKRs are objectives and key results. Okay, with the help of these OKRs, companies like Google and nonprofits like the Gates Foundation have been able to transform the ways they set their goals and be able to reach new heights, reach new levels. And we're gonna see how. Okay, so I want you to feel welcome once again. I hope you had a great week. And you know, who hasn't been in a company where there's so many things that they're being measured that all of a sudden nobody has a real clear direction on which direction to go. Sometimes when we're talking about interdepartmental stores in different areas, each one is working with their own. Sometimes, you know, a lot of people are more familiar with these KPIs, and for those that know, KPIs are key performance indicators, and basically they help us measure, you know, results as well. But the issue with the key performance indicators is that sometimes they don't set clear objectives and clear expectations, and sometimes these KPIs are not really considering other factors as well as you know, how well is your internal culture or your organization climate, which we know that it has an impact, and I always advocate for this because they do have an impact on how people feel about their workplace and how much they're actually giving and willing to give for betterment of the company and to reach objectives within the time frames. And you know, it has so many benefits as saving companies money, sometimes just being more innovative. You know, we'll see, we'll talk about this. So that's why I really like this book, because OKRs really is a proposition that help us you know, visualize that having clear objectives in an organization, and you have to limit as how many you're gonna measure and for how long, are probably gonna give us a sense of purpose and some sense of direction that many of the people, the collaborators in your company, maybe the people that are working for you, that you're working with or that you're working for, can work together trying to attain more flexible, reachable and transparent goals. And we know that when organizations can work together, then they are more efficient, and then they can really attain what's success for them. So in ways that this success can be achievable and it can be measurable. Okay, so I want you to know that this book from John Doerr, Measure What Matters, not only allow companies to continuously update, track and rewrite their goals, but they also encourage a growth-centered philosophy. So in this case is because it's bound to help companies of any size, really. So I'm not only talking about like large companies, I'm talking to startups, small business, which make half of the economy of the United States. Yes, you with your business, whether you're coming from any industry, this is important for you to know, because OKRs really help to grow a centered philosophy that helps companies to rethink. And that's what I want you to take away from this podcast episode, is to rethink how your strategy management or your management strategy is working. What are you measuring? What is being effectively measured? And maybe you need to rethink that, and maybe find that there's other ways to empower your team to be stronger, be better. At the same time, continue trying to look for that growth that is gonna be a healthy growth, that is gonna be a good healthy growth for your company and for your numbers, but at the same time for the people that are working within your company, and basically looking for ways to satisfy more your customers' needs, provide a better service, pre-sale or post-sale services, as well as being more innovative. And it is important that we recognize this. To make the long story short, is the little story about how these OKRs were either discovered or proposed by John. He talks about when he was back in the 70s. Back in the 70s, he used to work for Intel's, and he talks about the story of Andy Grove, which was one of Intel's co-founders, and at some point he became the vice president. And during the 70s, so when he became vice president, he go on to become later on the CEO, and he had a visionary leadership, because it was a vision that it was integral with the company's mission and vision, but also it really helped with the transformation from a small business that at that point Intel was, to the giant global company that it is today. Okay, so basically if you have a computer, great chances are that your computer is running on Intel chips. Okay, so the use of OKRs at that point was a central path for this approach, and it was a central part for the author of this book, John, in measuring what matters. Okay, so after getting hired, the story tells in this book is that the author happened to be at one of these growth seminars, and that he happened to explain that these OKRs aren't really what we know. They're not just pure numbers, but look at this. The proposition of the OKRs and that Grove talk on his seminar back in the 70s already, he was talking about what to do with what we knew. Okay, so basically you have information, and we're gonna call it data. Okay, I rather look at it this way. So if I have pure numbers that don't really speak to me, don't really say anything to me, then they're not organized, they're not clear, they don't help with a vision, they don't help with goals or anything. That's just pure raw data. Okay, so it serves for data mining. But once you know what to do with that data, then that becomes information. That's the way I've always looked into it. So if you want to get things done, then execution should really be more important to you than knowledge. Okay, because you need to know what to do with that information, with that knowledge. If you have a lot of information, a bunch of reports that you're getting, a lot of metrics to measure, a bunch of KPIs per se, but you don't know what to do with it, or people within the departments don't really understand how does that even happen, or how they can contribute to grow those measurements, then they're lost. They're just lost in a sea that is endless, with just a frontier that they can never reach. They don't even have it clear how they're getting there, how things are getting done, why things should get done, and how they fit into the whole puzzle. So it's not really that complicated. Okay, for example, one of Intel's objectives at that time, and again I'm talking about back in the 70s, they had a number of they wanted to be the number one in the mid-range computer component industry. Okay, so they had set a few objectives, and as Grove explained back then, the company as a whole really truly focused on pursuing that goal, which was to be the number one. Okay, but they had to be measurable. Okay, so how would they know they had reached their objective, right? How would you know? Was it sales? Was it number of units sold? Was it number of users? What was it? The number of production? Was it the number of workers? How would they know they have reached that? So that's where those key results came in that Grove went on. And for example, one of those key results, or AKRs, at the time was to win 10 designs for the Intel 8085 microprocessor back from that, okay? And every time they hit 10 designs, then they will get closer to that goal. Okay, so those KRs had to be measured simply with a clear yes or no. So they were not complicated, they were not like, well, maybe yes or no. I mean, it was simply yes or no. Did we measure that and did we get a clear result? Yes or no, okay? And everyone was involved, not only as contributing to those teams, but they also have to, the people that were part of those teams and that were involved in this process from every part of the organization that had to do with these processors or microprocessors, they had to be able to understand whether these KRs had been met or not without any arguments, okay? So there weren't any like gray areas. Well, the story tells that growth, implementing this management system at Intel, was able to grow the company like 40%. He grew the company by 40% every year through his 11-year tenure as a CEO. So can you imagine 40% every year through an 11-year period while he was a CEO? So can you imagine of any other company that has gone through this? Well, like right off the top of my head, I don't. Okay, but wouldn't you want to see your organization to grow not 40%, but 4 times four times every year for the next 10 years? Well, applying OKRs and having clear measurements, like we said before, there had to be a measuring way to say yes or no, nothing in between. Everybody that was part of the process needed to understand how those KRs were being attained and if were being reached or not, without any objections. And if you could growing your business 4 times what you built this year or what you built last year, can you imagine selling 4 times that, and then whatever those products or services you have, or having those customers 4 times more every year for the next 10 years? Wouldn't you want to achieve that? Well, then this is important for you, okay? But now it is important to understand that OKRs in action is not just about setting goals that everybody has to follow, but instead the OKRs approach is to allow organizations, and this is what the author is trying to tell us, is to stay focused on reaching their goals, so in reaching your goals, okay? Because we all have worked at some point in our lives, and maybe we are the ones setting those ways of working. We're working in high performance organizations or high performance teams where we need to move ahead as a team, but everyone is going in different directions. Why? Well, that's why it's equally important knowing where one is not headed. Okay, so it is important that everyone part of the team, everyone part of the organization needs to know where we're going and where we're not going. Why? Because all of a sudden, then we can face different distractions, different needs. There can be something new that is just happening right now. Maybe there's a new trend, maybe it's a fad in the industry, and all of a sudden then we're distracting our original intention from going one place, and then all of a sudden we have people in our teams that are getting distracted trying to do other things that are not really going to contribute to the overall goal of putting everything we possibly can to reach successfully these goals that we want to achieve as a company. Okay, so it's important that everyone from top management to lower level employees, so just about anybody, can stay focused on achieving those limited number of important goals together. Okay, so here the keyword is together. Okay, it is important as well that once management have determined these top level objectives, between 3 and 5 Ks are needed per objective to help everyone at the company know when each objective have been reached. So again, you can have 3 to 5 KRs that you need per each objective, so you can clearly tell what's being reached and what's not, and what hasn't, and at the same time that is being clearly communicated with those parts that are involved in this process. Okay, so the whole intention is to focus, so you don't your current focus, if you have way too many things to measure and nobody knows how to get there and everybody's working in different directions where we don't even want to get to, then our efforts become diluted to the point where progress is hard to measure, and then nobody knows really where we're at, right? All we know is that we have spent X amount of dollars and countless hours of labor and time and effort and time where we are not moving anywhere close to where we wanted to get. Okay, so it is important that OKRs have a clear time frame so departments across the organization can stay focused in collectively meeting deadlines. Okay, it is important that they work collectively as one one orchestra. Okay, these OKRs also don't have to be don't have to last for like a year, or don't have to last for 10 years, right? It's all gonna vary on the industry, the business, what the times are happening, and how fast that industry is moving. Okay, but every 3 months you should be able to come together and then see where your OKRs are, to see if they've been achieved, or whether you don't need to build, whether you have built or reached any progress at all, or existing progress, or maybe it's time to set a new course, and maybe this isn't working, maybe this isn't helping. So you're not going to wait for a whole year to look at your numbers and be discouraged by the results, when maybe you could have gathered all together everybody's input, and maybe discover that at that time it would make more sense to do something different, or maybe rewrite those OKRs, or maybe have some corrective measurements or measures, so then we're not wasting our time and you're concentrating your efforts into what it really focus. Okay, there's a story too I wanted to share. It tells the story of Brett Cox. He's a CEO of Remind, and CEO of this company. He employed and used OKRs because he worked with the author of this book, with John, to transform his small education startup into a company that wanted to have like millions of users. So after Remind hit that big time in 2014 with 300,000 downloads per day, the CEO, Koff, realized that the team of 14 needed to focus if they wanted to continue company growth. So they were able to work with a venture capital firm, and it was during this time that this helped considerably when the company Remind faced a major test of figuring out how to most effectively allot time and energy across the rapidly growth organization, because they were so focused into the everyday operation that they still needed ways to measure and effective ways to continue focus and growth on where they wanted to go, right? So for example, one of their most requested features was to add a repeated message function. So the teachers that were using their application wouldn't have to manually send out the same message to students every week. But the Remind's objective during the quarter was to increase teacher engagement. And since this repeat feature wouldn't have helped them meet this time-sensitive objective, it was shelved. So it was put to rest for a little while. So it is important that using OKRs to help you stay focused on your objectives, into your company's objectives, and not get distracted. Okay, so in this example, the company continued to grow and it secures more Series C funding for $40 million, and then by 2016 it employed 16 people. So it went from 14 people, 15, right, to 4 times more, created 4 times more jobs. It became a much larger organization, and it provided services to a lot more people. Okay, it is important to also recognize, as is mentioned in this book, Measure What Matters, to having a transparent and aligned OKR system to help organizations move forward and efficiently in a more collaborative setting. Okay, so why? Because these OKRs really help because they have to be simple and be understood by everyone, no matter how complex this was, to use common sense and openness and honesty. Okay, and that's something that it makes human relationships successful, okay, by being open and honest. So the people that need to know should know, because if you appreciate that openness and honesty in your own personal relationships, in your personal life, or in your own businesses, then why would that be any different from the organization you're working with or that you're partnering with? Right? So one important aspect of these OKRs is that these OKRs, these objectives and key results, must be transparent to everyone in the organization. Okay? Because that builds that sense of working together, bringing the teams closer, and making everyone part of the big picture, and making everyone feel engaged, also responsible with the outcome, but also being sharing the success when it's achieved. Okay, This book also makes a notation that is really interesting, that research shows that being transparent with your goals increases motivation. Okay, so I'm just going to put this example. So let's say you are going to, you want to work out, okay? Let's say you want to go 3 days a week to the gym, but you don't tell anybody. So it's easy for you. If you don't have an accountability partner, if you don't even put it on your social media, I'm not advocating to do that, but I'm just saying. So like if you don't have anybody really knowing what you're looking to do, and you don't have anyone to be accounted for, that can help you and tell you, hey, why aren't you going the 3 times a week that you said you would? Or why haven't you lost the 10 pounds that you said that you would by the end of next month? Or why wouldn't you, why have you been eating so much meat? When you said you were going to be a little more, eat less meats and eat more veggies, for instance. Well, anyway, so basically it's the same thing. The more people you can get on board, then the more the people will feel compelled to follow through and be part of that. Okay. One example, and I love this part of the book too, because it talks about how the 20% time concept was employed by Google. Okay, and what this did, and all this OKR, is allowed engineers to spend 1 day's worth of their time every week, so about 20 hours, or I'm sorry, 20% of their work week. So if they work 40 hours, okay, then 10% is 4, 20% is 8 hours, okay, so a full day to work on projects, okay, their own projects, but that they feel will contribute to Google's overarching top level OKRs. Okay, so Google was looking to increase their penetration. What was the result of this philosophy? Well, a young Google entrepreneur spent his 20% in a project called Caribou in 2001. Today, this project is known as Gmail. Sound familiar? Yeah, I love Gmail. I'm a Gmail fan, supporter, and it makes my life so easy. I can stay communicated, organized, and they just keep adding new features that I just can't wait to keep trying. Okay, so that Caribou project back in 2001, by allowing employees, their own engineers from their team, to contribute to the overall goal in reaching those OKRs set by the company, gave birth to a project called nowadays as Gmail. And Gmail is the most popular email client in the world. Okay, so if you don't know what Gmail is, please send me an email or give me a contact. Fill out my contact form at JLLB Media, because I would really be curious to find out if there's someone who doesn't have knowledge of what that is. Okay, so there's more examples like that. I always encourage you to, if you like this book, to pursue this curiosity further, and it wouldn't be fair for me to be able to do a fair review just in one podcast episode. Okay, but I want to inspire you to be interested, to learn more, and to apply some of these simple advices to improve the results that you're getting from your company. Okay, it's not only about marketing, it's not only about leadership, it's also about being able to measure, but also collaborating, communicating in a transparent and honest way, so everybody feels part of it. So when the company is going in one direction and is not being distracted as much with everyday's changes, then there are better chances that you will get to obtain what the company needs to, where it wants to go, basically. Okay. Another idea that I want to share is that Google uses like a color-coded scale system that it helps to measure their OKRs. Okay, so if at the beginning we said, well, yes, OKRs are yes or no, well, they can also be not like grades, like I said, but there could be ways to measure how progress is being measured. Okay, so Google uses like a color code, like from 0.0 to 0.3, which is color red means that no progress being made, whereas 0.4 to 0.6, which is yellow or amber, means that some progress has been made, but the results remain unmet, so the results haven't been reached yet. And finally, from 0.7 to 1, or about 70% to 100%, is a green color, like a gold color. It's a sign that the key result has been successfully attained. And why is this important? Because that allows them to be able to utilize a system that it was easy for people to know where they were at all times. So it was much easier to show a score of green, red, green, or yellow. Green being towards the top, reaching 100%, or red being the further away from from 100, so maybe like a 0 to like a 30% of the goal, and explain where they're at to as opposed as like 0.3 or 0.4. Okay. Now it is important as well that the companies know that even if you don't have enough cash at hand, your OKRs can be attained as long as you have make a conscious effort to dedicate enough time, resources that are available to you and at your disposal, and to try to work towards that and get better results. Okay, but it's important that in order to get a big payoff and to reach those goals, it is important that you stay focused and remain focused with your team and honest, like I said. Okay, another example from Google, and I love this one too, where Google had one of the first goals to reach, like they had a super ambitious goal, and that was to reach over like about 20 million weekly users by the end of 2008. Okay, 20 million weekly users wasn't reached not in 2008 by Google, so it wasn't a quite success story, but it wasn't reached until 2009. Okay, but when they reached that in the next year, the team set what they call it a stretch goal, okay, an OKR with a stretch goal to actually reach that to 50 million. So they not only double, but double and a half what they wanted in the first place. Okay, but they only reached 38 million. Okay, but by 2010, so the next year, they didn't reach the 50 million they had set. They reached only 38 million. But by 2010, they finally managed to meet their stretch goal with 111 users. So they double the result from what their intention was. Okay, so it is important to understand that KPIs can be used not only to create more stress at work, because maybe that's what some people are thinking, but actually, again, with transparency, with honesty, and with a steady focus on where you want to go as a company or as an organization, then you can always reach more and get more than what your original idea was. Okay, and it doesn't mean it's gonna be easy. Great. So to kind of summarize this book in a couple sentences here, I want to mention that these OKRs, objectives and key results, are really a revolutionary tool that can help organizations reimagine their approach to management. Because if you think about it too, many companies are only, say, having performance reviews once a year. Why? Well, if you think about it, and you have to issue corrective measures or opportunity training for employees, or for co-workers, or for people from your staff, management, or the other levels in the company, and you don't meet only once a year because it takes time to do that. Instead of giving continuous feedbacks, loop back more often, every 3 months, every 4 months, which is now what many HR departments in companies are using, what they call CFRs, which is basically like the OKRs for human resources. Okay, and these CFRs are continued performance management, because you want to look back with the people and be able to continue measuring how you're getting to that. You're not going to wait for a year at the end of the period to be able to measure how things went. You want to continuously monitor that. So like when you start noticing a deviation, when you start noticing that you're not getting progress, well, you need to make corrective actions, and that's what OKRs can really help you with. Okay, now when it comes to setting organizational objectives, remember that less is more. Do not come up with just OKRs because you need OKRs and they sound cool and they're gonna make you more interested. Do not come more KPIs for each department, because you're just gonna create more work for everybody. And again, if you have data, okay, numbers that don't tell anything and you don't know how to use them and you actually don't do anything with it, that just remains as data. But the moment you know what to do with it, and they can become actionable actions to move your company forward, to move your teams forward, that's when it becomes information, and that's what the whole purpose of OKRs. As Google co-founder Larry Page says, put more wood behind fewer arrows. And Steve Jobs kind of say the same thing when he quoted, innovation means saying no to 1,000 things. Okay, and I know many of you, maybe even like me, I'm an entrepreneur and I have like tons of ideas, because I don't know, because I'm just a lefty, but at the same time because I love creativity so much and I want to grow my creativity side as much as I can, and I know it can only be improved by practicing it and by trying, trial and error and doing all those things. So when it comes to setting your organizational objective, you should only have between 3 to 5 per quarter. Okay, try to stick to that. So that way you'll be forced to figure out which priorities matter most to you and to your organization before you start working on them. And that will hopefully help you contribute your success in the future and also stay focused. That's it, my friends. That's my take on Measuring What Matters, a book from 2008 from the author John Doerr. And I think it's a good, interesting book. I would recommend you to read it more if you find that this might be a good opportunity for improvement in your company or in your organization. And again, before I say goodbye for this podcast week, I want to invite you to connect with us. We're a community of entrepreneurs. We want to, with this podcast, provide a voice for multicultural communities that are working hard, that are delivering product, services, innovation, and that need recognition. If you're on the other side and you want to help support this cause, join us too. We want to have everyone part of the conversation, being everyone part of the process, and then just providing a platform for people to recognize these extremely wealthy, knowledgeable people that are working so hard with their creativity, with their own background, to reach out new heights for your company, for your business. Okay, so that's the whole goal. And this week, while I'm recording this podcast episode, it's the Twin Cities Startup Week that is being celebrated in St. Paul, Minneapolis. And today I'm gonna go to one of the sessions later tonight. I just can't wait to connect with people, but I want to connect with you. If you listen to this, right away, or like in a week or in a year's time from when this podcast is being aired, please reach out to me. I really want to create opportunities, and I want to help you get where you want to get, where you deserve to get with your hard work, with your talent. And I'm here for you, also with anything related to marketing, digital marketing, leadership, or if you need a speaker for one of your events, please talk to me. We can definitely design that for you. Love to work with you together on this. So anyways, visit me at jlbmedia.com, sign up to the VIP newsletter, and follow us also. We're on Facebook as Juan Llerena and also on Instagram as @JLBmedia. Well, can't wait to talk to you like next Friday. Have a great week. Adios.